My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're covering the premiere of Fresh Kills, which is a spotlight narrative that's screening at the 2023 Tribeca Film Festival, where we'll be speaking to director and writer Jennifer Esposito. The film takes place with the daughters of the Larusso family who struggle to break free from the unspoken code of women behind the men in the mob world of Staten Island in the late 80s and early 90s. Unlike any mob movie you've ever seen before, Fresh Kill reveals the women behind the men, the stories that are never told, violence, fear, and the unspoken rules that dictate who they are and who they are allowed to become. So to talk about why she wanted to write this film, why it was so important to direct it, and what it's going to feel like to have it premiere at the Tribeca Film Festival, here is director, writer, and actor Jennifer Esposito. Hi, how are you?
How are you, Monica?
I'm good. I'm
Awesome.
so excited to talk with you.
Yay, thank you.
Oh my gosh. First of all, I have to just start off with you're one of the best actresses ever. So
Oh
I'm
God,
so
love
happy
you.
to talk with you.
Thank you.
The amount of work that I have seen and worshipped you in is a lot.
Oh, that's so kind. Thank you so much. You never know, you never know. It's been such a long career and
Mhm.
hard that, you never know if it's touching anybody. So thank you. It means a lot to me.
Well, it definitely does touch people. You do such a fantastic job. But I was so excited to hear that you were going to write and direct, and then also that it was going to be in Brooklyn. It was going to be about like mobsters, but from woman's perspective. Like this is like my ultimate dream come true. So I'm so
Awesome.
excited to talk with you about it.
That's awesome. I'm excited. Are you from Brooklyn?
I'm from Long Island, and my parents
Okay.
were born in Brooklyn, so I kind of know the
Amazing.
whole. I've heard all
Yep.
the stories, all the
Yep.
things.
Yep. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I know you were born right in Brooklyn, or
I was born in Brooklyn. I
yeah.
was there until I was probably 10 and then moved to Staten Island when I was 10 and I moved to the city when I was 18.
Oh, so see, we've been neighbors this whole time.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
So,
so you've heard all the stories, I'm assuming, and I've heard all the stories, so it's so
yes,
funny. But so I started watching the movie Fresh Kills. I love it so much. Again,
thank you.
because it's from a woman's perspective, because it's strong women, and it also shows you a little more about kind of the degradation with children being involved. A lot of times in these gangster mob movies, I hate using that term, but a lot of times in these kind of films, you don't see the overall long-term effect. It just looks cool and sexy and fun,
Right.
not realistic and what can actually happen and damaging to a family.
That's absolutely
So
right.
I wanted to ask you what inspired you to kind of do this project, write it and kind of direct it, act in it. And what was your main goals that you wanted to make sure hit when somebody saw this film?
Well, so first of all, I agree with you. Growing up Italian American and seeing these, Godfather and all these movies and shows, and there was never a real clear depiction of first of all our culture, but secondly, in this genre space, you never really heard from the women, like really heard from the women, and especially the young women. And I did grow up around some of this, and I thought, there's so much here that no one has ever discovered and no one has ever given a voice to. And it stayed with me throughout my life and my career. And I just kept thinking about it, and I kept having to say, like, why are you thinking about this? Because this isn't my family. This isn't based on my family. And my father is not in the mafia. But why is it staying with me? And I thought, well, it's staying with me because it's simply about trying to find a voice in a world that tells you not to have one. And as females, and being a female in this business and in this world, especially look what's going on now, having a voice as a female is not very easy. Having a real voice and a big voice and a loud voice and a voice that isn't just going to be grateful for the peas that you're allowed to eat at the table. You actually want a whole meal. So, and that's not wrong. And it stayed with me. And I thought, let me explore that through this world that has very, very clear rules. And so that's what's really the movie is about. It's not about the mafia, it's just placed in that world because that's where the rules are so clearly defined.
But I think that makes so much sense because for it to be placed in that position where you have a wife that might not want to be as vocal but does want to have a voice but is kind of ignored and not listened to or talked down to, and then you have two kids that both kind of lead different lives, right? Because we all have our own mentalities and our own thoughts, and one is kind of following in the same kind of footsteps and the other one is kind of rebelling a little bit.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to see like whose voice will ultimately be the one that kind of stands the strongest in the end
Mhm.
when you watch it all together. So for you, why was it important also to be in there and show that instead of making like a movie where it was just, oh, all the women run the show and it's all about the women, why was it important to include the fact that this is an ugly world and that it can lead to your children, but to also show that children can also split from it and some might feel differently about the environment that they grew up in?
Well, I think again, it's I like to go back and I say like it could be like getting out of poverty or getting out of addiction, coming from an addictive family of the drugs. It's very difficult to break, these generational d- issues. It's very difficult. And like what do you have to do to break them? Like who do you have to become? And I think whereas, as you're talking about the taking everybody comes up different in this world and like how you react under seeing violence and stuff when you're growing up as kids. I do show both ways, and to me why I ever want to be an actor and why I want to tell stories is the humanness of it, the human quality. So I am not a fan of like, let's make everything pretty and perfect. And look, the women are in charge now. Like, it's like that would never happen. I needed to be honest about what I saw growing up. And also I don't have the answer on like, now you have a voice. Yay. Like if this isn't changing anytime soon. So I wanted to just explore what that looks like and how other women could when it's like crabs in a bucket, I like to say, back down. I feel that happens with women, and that's what we also explore in the film. It's like, because one of the women maybe wants something different, it somehow shines a light on those other women that aren't striving for better, because it screws up their space, you know what I mean? And it's also a very scary thing, like don't rock the boat kind of thing. So it explores all of that. And to me, that's what art is supposed to do. It's supposed to ask questions and make you think and push you to see things that maybe you're not looking at. So that to me is why I wanted to tell this story, because it's not pretty
Yeah.
and it's not perfect.
And I love that too, because I do think sometimes you need a light shown on you through a friend, sometimes family members, whatever the case may be, to go, ooh, I don't really want that, right? Like we all grow up and we always go, oh, I don't want to do what my parents did if they did X, Y, and Z, right? Or I want to do what my parents did because they did certain things.
Right.
So you mold your life off of that. So
Right.
it's interesting when you have a friend that is in this family, or you have, he has friends and whatever, you guys have like a whole community, and some of these women feel helpless and they're not going to be able to talk and say anything, and then they go, "Ooh, but she did, so does that mean I can?" And you raise that
Exactly.
question. Is that
Exactly.
something that we should all start looking into and going, maybe I'm not raising it enough, or is it risky, is it worth the risk? Like these are all things that start coming up as we watch your movie basically.
Exactly. And it's like it's also, for anybody who's felt like, I've had men watch it and feel that the sins of, say, their father, definitely hurt them at some point in their life. And so to be able to look at these children in this atmosphere of not the best place for them, and what the repercussions are, as we grow up as adults, again, all asking questions of like how we do better, how we live a life that's authentic to ourselves and not repeating what we've been shown.
Yeah. There was one scene I want to ask you about the movie, obviously, and your take on the synopsis and all that stuff. But one scene that got me in particular, and I just have to tell you right off the bat, is when I was watching it, obviously I think a lot of people are gonna go, oh my gosh, with the children in the car, right? Because then they're kind of first getting really exposed to this guy that they think this is my dad and I love my dad and he's the best man
Exactly.
ever. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? But the scene that really got me was you actually when it's a little later in the movie when you guys move into a house and your husband's telling you, nothing's good enough for you. Like no matter what, you're just complaining and complaining. And I think it's like the washing machine, like, kind of floods and you're
Mhm.
like screaming and cursing on the floor and you're like wiping everything down and you're just saying like this is not any better, like I don't want this, I want out, I'm done. And for some reason, Italians were very passionate, were very loud. And
Yes.
I don't know, it just reminded me of my parents and like in the way where you had that stress, right? Like my dad was a salesman and a lot of pressure was on him to do stuff. And with my mom, there's a lot of pressure to be a parent, right? And when things go wrong like that, it could be the simplest thing. It's just so stressful that you just
Yep.
kind of explode. And the two kids that are in the film that played the younger versions, when they walk, they're just like, let's go into the room and let's go watch something. Let's go shut the door. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've experienced that kind of thing where it's like, oh, mom and dad are fighting. Like I just want to like walk away from it. And it's
Yep.
not, again, like a mob thing. It's more of like just a family dynamic. Like I've been in that family dynamic where you're just like, I don't know what to do. And and the older one's like, let's just go watch some TV and get out of here. So
Yep.
that scene hit me very hard in particular because I was like, oh
Wow.
my gosh. And as an older woman, looking back on how my mom was able to do all of that and make everything work,
Right.
like, cause, and again, with sales, it's like, you're very insecure. It's very up and down. Right.
Mhm.
So how she did it, I don't know, but I'm very lucky to have great parents, but watching your movie in particular made me think of things like that. Like it related to me in that sense of the insecurity and the unknown. And,
Mhm.
how do you do that as a mother? So I want to ask you, obviously, I know your film's kind of set in a little different scenario, but
Yeah.
how is your film kind of where's your film set? Where are these characters in this family? What are they about? And is that interesting to hear also like on a side note like that people can relate to it in a different way like that. Like that I'm relating to it in a way that has nothing to do with, the
Yeah, no,
identity of the film.
that's the beauty, I think, again, of art. It's, we can both watch the same thing and totally take away totally different things. It's again, it's showing you a piece of yourself in whatever or your life, however, you relate to it, you relate to it. And I think that's the beauty again of art. It's supposed to bring us together through a shared experience of everybody can understand their mother losing themselves, at one point or another, and hearing fighting or whatever. These girls just heard it to a more extreme, on the level of extreme that was pretty extreme for them. So, again, it's just being able to see how we are molded as children. It's what they witnessed, what they were around, and although they don't know exactly what's going on, as children we always can feel the temperature in the house, we can always sense. So they knew something was going on, they just didn't understand exactly what. And the mother trying to keep it all together, believing that things were going to change all the time and knowing that probably they weren't.
Mhm.
So, it's again, it's showing how those girls towards, the middle and the end of the movie got there. And you see how they did of being surrounded by chaos.
Right. So how would you so if someone was walking up to you and they were like, I'm very excited about this movie. I want to go see it at Tribeca. How would you describe this movie or explain what the synopsis is about?
I have one line that I say, it's about finding a voice in a world that tells you not to have one, set in a mafia world. And to me, that resonates with everybody. Like I said, I've had male friends watch the movie and be blown away, and it hit them deep. So this is not about girls. This is not the girls in the mafia. And like you said, they're gonna like you rule, and they're the rulers of the mafia. That's not it at all. It's about a family, it's a coming of age of these girls. So um and if you love the late 80s 90s, you got all the music, all that. I always say too, it has an element of Saturday Night Fever, where he was trying because he wanted to be a dancer, and you're not supposed to be a dancer in those neighborhoods, and this blue collar Italian, like. And it's that getting out of that space, which it reminds me of that, and that very New York kind of feel. So I think it has something for everyone, but I think there's a powerful message that hits deep.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Because I watched it more than once and I was like, ooh, and then there's this scene. And oh, and yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that I think almost everybody, it's a very universal movie that a lot of people can relate to for sure.
Yeah.
When you were directing it, I have a question about one of the scenes that you chose. I thought it was very interesting and it kind of is a catalyst for me, and it took me a second, but I was like, oh, genius. When you guys are at when the family is at the church for a funeral, and I think as adults that are watching the film kind of understand what's going on, but the kids kind of don't really know and whatever, but they're like, all right, we're going to another funeral, and they're just sitting there, and you do a close-up shot on one of the actresses, and then that close-up shot turns into the actress being older. So another actress comes in to show you the amount of times that this has become so normal.
Mhm.
For you, what made you decide to use a shot like that? I thought it was just so genius to show
Thank
it in that way, that
thank
this is something that's so normal to her at this point because
y-
she sat through so many.
yeah, I mean, it was really about tracking where this little girl goes from there. And it made sense to go from the little girl's face of just being this kind of washed over kind of, my life is like not my own, into the older version of her. And just realizing, like you said, like this has gone on and where she's been. Um and that actress, that character's face being a little bit more kind of resolved, that this is her life. And it's kind of a beautiful but yet sad moment, and there's a little glimmer of hope, but you don't know. And it brings you right into where we left her and now where she is. And there's not much has changed, but everything has changed.
Yeah. I just love that shot you chose. Like, I just thought it was such an ingenious. I know there's like cinematographers and people with you, but I just thought it was such a great choice. Like,
No, it was all me.
storytelling wise.
I'll take it. I'll
Good,
take
take
it.
it.
I'll take it because no, every and I don't, it's not about bragging. It's about every piece of this was me. And yes, at a great DP that we discussed everything, but every piece of this, because the way I write actually is in pictures. So I'll see it before I write it. Like it plays, like I've watched this movie in my head before it was made, like thousands of times. That's just the way my mind works. So it it every piece of it was me. Like there was no other alternative there in my mind.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing because like it was one of my favorite parts just because
Awesome.
like thematically, like watching it, and I was like, oh, that was so genius. It was
Oh,
like such a
cool.
smart move. Um, what also, so when you write this, you
Mhm.
direct it. Is it because it's your baby that you decide that you want to act in it, or do you just want to try to kill yourself and do all of these
I was
things?
trying to kill myself. I was absolutely trying to kill myself, which I almost did. No, to
That's
be
a
honest,
lot. It's a lot.
and produced it, and yet no, it's beyond a lot. This, I will definitely say, this whole experience has definitely taken a few years of my life for sure, but it is what it is. I will say that role of the mom was written based on someone that I know, and it was just no one could play her the way I can. And I'm again not bragging. It's because the intricacies of this person were so, she could be your best friend or your worst enemy within the same second. And that I didn't have enough time to try and direct someone how to do that. Like they needed time to be able to do this role justice, how minute it was, like, I love you and hate you, all in the same word. It's too deep. It's too deep. I didn't have enough time. I was like, I'll do it. Let's go. Because it's just something that I've known. I've known this person my whole life. So it had to be done.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing to be able to do all of those different aspects of it. Because I'm assuming like and obviously like, yes, before this is completed now. So before the strike, but you were probably rewriting and working on it, edit, like so you're just doing so many things at the same time, and your brain's keeping track of kind of everything that's going on. And then you're like, and I'm in hair and makeup, and then I'm on set. So I just can't imagine doing all of that at once.
It
But
is, I will say that
amazing.
that is tricky because and it wasn't the fact of like performance, that wasn't it. It was looking at everything from the top, like looking down overall of like the moving pieces and what shot is next and next week and then this and then that and like that and then being in it, that was strange. That was because I was literally like, oh yeah, do that over there and then put that shot, okay, action. And then I'd be in the scene. So that was a bit tricky. But like I said, it was just easier if I did the role. It was just easier than trying to get someone to quench what I wanted to see in this person. It was just easier if I did it.
Well, I'm happier that you did it because I love you as an
You.
actor. So
Thank
I was
thank
very
you.
excited.
Thank
I wanted to
you.
ask you, I know like we're running close to time. So I wanted to ask you also, what are you most excited for people to see when they screen this film? Because I know it's like it's a lot of work. It becomes your baby, it becomes your life. And then you get into a festival and now it's going to become like a world thing, right? Like you're gifting it to us to
Yeah.
now see, and it kind of leaves you a little bit. So
Yeah.
what are you hoping, like, audiences that sit in there watch it and walk out and go, oh, this is what I took from it.
To be able to share this movie is I won. I won. When I walked out of my first meeting that someone took with me and loved the script, I was like, I won. I think most of our life, if not all of it, it's a journey of growth for yourself. And I have been on that journey for a long time. This was a huge thing that I wanted to do, and I did it. I'm super proud of it. I already went. I already won. But to share it now, I just know in my heart that people are going to be moved. I just know it. That's all I ever wanted to do, was tell stories that were going to move someone, make them think, change an idea, make them have a conversation, and just make them feel alive. And that's it. So as far as this movie will go, it'll never go that far from me because it's my heart at this point. Like you said, my heart and soul is in this film. So it'll always remain now, out there. So that's pretty cool. So I'm just thrilled to get it with an audience and see their reaction.
Yeah, and also it's out there forever. So it
I
will
know it's
forever be
so
out there. I
cool.
mean, so like if out of anything, and I know this is crazy because you've had such an amazing career and all of these things, but I feel like for you, and especially now talking to you, this is probably one of the most important things for you, and it's going to be there forever in the history of cinema, where anyone can watch it anytime
Yeah.
for the rest of time. I mean, like, it's just crazy to think about
It
that,
is.
and it's
It,
something
it,
that came from your brain.
And you know what's so funny? It's because it's been so ridiculously hard. Like every step of the way with this has been, that's a whole other podcast. Like it's been extremely difficult. So to now be on the other side of it, I have to, like you said, I have to understand that because it's been such a, and I haven't been thinking about anything else. I've been thinking about just getting it here. And now that it's here, it's like I have to really realize, like, yes, this when it does hit me, because it's starting to hit me, like, wow, I did this. Like, I really did every part of this. Like, every part of this is me. And I go, oh, and it makes me like, oh, wow, how'd you do that? So I definitely get a little like, I get definitely choked up. And I'm glad you reminded me as well, because it is an amazing thing. I'm extremely proud of it. But like I said, when someone is able to see it and feel something or have a conversation, I won. Like, I'm good. I can retire. I can go. I don't know. I can't retire because I spent all my money on the film. But hey, it was it was good while it was there.
Well, I want to thank you so much. Like, I literally want to be your best friend because I'm just so
Yes.
inspired by you as a woman, as from your career as a director, just all the stuff that you've done, and the fact that this came from you and kind of poured out of you, and that you were so willing to share it, be in it, be so vulnerable, and then share it with all of us.
Thank
So
you.
we just have to be best friends forever.
We will. I
I
always want another great friend, great female who like pulls others up. I'm in. I'm in.
Well, I just think you're one of the most amazing women ever. And to talk to you and for you to like surpass my expectations too, it just makes it that much
Yeah.
better. And
That's something, because I've met heroes of mine, and when they fail, it breaks your heart a little bit. It breaks your heart a little bit. I've done that, and it's that's not fun. So I'm glad. I'm glad that this was a positive experience for you and for me. Really, I appreciate
no,
it.
it exceeded my expectations. And the film is, I think, one of the best films, if not the best I've seen so far from anything related to the festival. So
Mhm.
I'm so happy for you. I cannot wait for you to be in there and really hear
Thank
it, and just hear everyone clapping and hear everyone go, and then and just live the emotions and go through it and relate to it. And I guess like I'll just end with, I hope you take a second when you're in there. Like, because I know like you come, like everyone comes in for a little bit. I hope you take a second and just breathe and enjoy it, because
Thank
you worked
you.
so hard on it, and
You're right.
it's so good.
I'm gonna think of you, Monica, when I do that, because you're absolutely right, and you reminded me of that today. Because still have tons of things going on. You reminded me of that today, so I'm gonna think of you. Thank you. And when this film maybe goes on and has a life, I'll come back and we'll speak about it, and we'll see
Yes,
where it's
I'd
been,
love
and we'll
to.
yeah, we'll reminisce about it. I would love that.
Well, congratulations. I'm so happy that you were willing to talk with me, because I'm just
Absolutely.
in awe of your film. I'm in awe of you, and I could not be happy. I'm like smiling because I'm so happy for you. So
Thank
I
you.
just cannot wait for you to enjoy it. So enjoy every second of it, because you
I
deserve it.
will. I will. Thank you so much. Really.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day, and I really appreciate you talking with me.
Of course. Bye, sweetie.
Bye. Congratulations. Hope you enjoyed listening to Jennifer Esposito talk about her film Fresh Kills. It sounds super exciting, and it just has a very special take on a film that I don't think I've ever seen before, so I highly recommend seeing it. If you have the chance to go to the Tribeca Film Festival, there are public screenings this Friday, June 16th at 8 p.m. at SVA Theater, Saturday, June 17th at 5:30 p.m. at AMC 19th Street East, and Sunday, June 18th at 5:30 p.m. at Village East Cinema. So make sure you go and try to check out one of those screenings. Hopefully it will be sold and be in theaters worldwide, so you can go check it out. So keep updated by following Jennifer Esposito, and of course, anything related to the film Fresh Kills. Thank you for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.